Rink-wide Vancouver. Pre-game, post-game, every game presented by Bodog. From sports odds to free casino games, make a play at bodog.net. Wadden and JPat here with you with another edition of the pre-game show as the Canucks get set to hit the road. But before they do that, JPat, one more home game, this time against the reigning Stanley Cup champs.
Yeah, Colorado in town, and then you won't see the Canucks at Rogers Arena until the 18th of January, when the guys that won the Stanley Cup before Colorado, in fact, they won it twice, Tampa will be here on January the 18th. And look, just the mood in this city right now and sort of this fractured relationship between the team and its fan base. Maybe getting out of town is not such a bad thing, although we've talked about the strength of schedule that lies ahead. So the Canucks probably, as a group, want to find a little bit of momentum, find their game, certainly, as they head out on the road for 5 after this one against the Avs.
Now, 3-game losing streak. We've seen some decent efforts from the Canucks over the 3 games. However, 60 minutes, not complete enough.
No, first periods have been all right. When you think of they opened the scoring early in Winnipeg, they got out of Calgary in a scoreless first period. And then the other night, the first period against the Islanders was fine as well. But in these 3 games on this losing streak, they've been outscored 9-2 in second periods, giving up 3 goals in all 3 of those games. And so the games have turned in the middle stages, and then the Canucks have had no pushback. So you can't control who scores first. The Canucks, obviously, they want to open the scoring on home ice, but the Avs want to get a jump as the visitors as well. But it's when that adversity sets in. The Canucks have spent a lot of time talking about that here this week. Let's see what it looks like if they fall behind at some point in this hockey game.
Let's get to the lineup change presented by Delaney's OK Tire out on Fraser Highway in Langley. Who's the goaltender and who's in and who's out?
Yeah, Colin Delia is getting the start. I don't know if that's a surprise. They basically had been alternating starts around the Christmas period, but then Spencer Martin went back-to-back. The problem for Spencer Martin, too many goals against. He's given up 5 in 4 of his last 6 starts. So we've seen Colin Delia most recently in Winnipeg, where he did his part to hold down the fort. Of course, everybody remembers what happened late in that game with the goaltender pulled, but Delia was pretty good that night. He was very good in Edmonton as well in the back half of back-to-backs. You look at Colin Delia's 3 starts as a member of the Vancouver Canucks, or at least his 3 appearances, because he came on in relief in the game as well. He's given up 2 goals, and 3 goals. So at that level, like, you're giving your team a chance. So we'll see if he can keep the Avs attack to 2 or 3 goals in this hockey game tonight. Beyond that, the big change is JT Miller up front on the right side with Elias Pettersson and Andrei Kuzmenko. So a new look top line for the Vancouver Canucks. For me, any line with Elias Pettersson is the top line. And when you combine Miller and EP40, the Canucks are loading up there. You've got Horvat center, Besser, and Mikheyev. A different look to the third line as well. Will Lockwood getting an opportunity to play with Sheldon Dries, and Connor Garland and Jack Studnicka will center the fourth line. Curtis Lazar and Dakota Joshua on his wings there. So again, some changes up front for the Vancouver Canucks. Bruce Boudreau just trying to hit on something that's going to allow his team to provide some offense tonight.
Yeah, and Bruce Boudreau is going to want to see some more sacrifice from his players as well. Just 3 block shots against the Islanders compared to 18 on the other side.
Yeah, I feel like there's going to be this big spotlight on the block shots column, but beyond that, it's just about digging in and, showing that compete and that battle level. And we talked about it. When adversity comes, the Canucks seem to crumble, and you just can't get ahead in professional sports if that's your reaction when things go sideways. Like, it's going to happen. And the good teams persevere, and the Vancouver Canucks, obviously, I don't think they fall in that good team category right now, but too much of this lately. So I just want to see guys invested and look like they care. There has to be some professional pride. Want to see it on display tonight against the defending champs.
Yeah, and the defending champs, they're not a good team. They're a great team, and they got a lot of skill as well. Want to limit the mistakes on the Canucks.
Well, yeah, I mean, we saw it the other night. So many self-inflicted wounds. Really, 3 of the Islanders' goals, direct results of turnovers by Canuck defensemen. Quinn Hughes, Tyler Myers, Ethan Bear. So there was plenty to go around. It's happening far too often. In Calgary the other night, the opening goal, JT Miller with the turnover along the boards, and then Elias Lindholm was off to the races. So the Vancouver Canucks, they got to make sure. Like, there's too many good teams that will make you pay, but make them work for their offensive opportunities. Don't serve them up on a silver platter the way the Canucks did to the Isles the other night.
Yeah, and they're going to have to be disciplined as well. We all know how atrocious the Canucks penalty kill is. Oh, look at that. The Avs, top 10 power play.
Yeah, this is kind of funny, and you won't find this very often, I don't think, in the middle of a long National Hockey League season, but the Vancouver Canucks and the Colorado Avalanche, their power plays are identical. Not just the percentage, The number of goals, 31. The number of opportunities, 123. And the percentage at 25.2%. Now, you'll remember when the Canucks beat the Avs in Denver back in November, it was the start of a 3-game road trip. Colorado had the best power play in the National Hockey League at that point, and they scored twice, including a 5-on-3. Nathan MacKinnon came out of their lineup. Their power play has dropped, but as you said, it's still top 10. McKinnon's back, and so I get a feeling that this Colorado Avalanche power play is going to start to ramp up again. Canucks have to make sure that that doesn't start tonight.
And the Canucks are 1-0 over the Avs this year, so they got that going for them.
Yeah, and they were good in that game in Denver. It was the start of a 3-game road trip. They went to Vegas and San Jose, and they kind of set the tone for the trip because they got 3 wins out there. That was way back when the Canucks were still winning in bunches. But some lesser lights, if you will, some depth scorers. Ethan Bear came up with a goal. Sheldon Dries in the third period. The Canucks were down in the third and came back to win, and they scored all of their goals at even strength. So it was a good, solid team effort. There haven't been enough of those for the Canucks this season, but yeah, I mean, that's something to draw on. I'm sure it came up in their preparation and their meetings ahead of this game tonight.
Now, the Avs, they're getting healthier, and that's a good thing for them, but they've dropped 4 in a row.
Yeah, and if you look at the standings, they are below the playoff bar heading into this one. They're just a point back of Edmonton and 2 back of Calgary. But still, these are the defending champs. And optically, it just looks a little strange to see Colorado outside of the playoffs. Now, they're not even at the midway mark of their season. They've got 3 games in hand on both the Oilers and the Flames. So, they're sitting in a position to make up some ground here. They're going to be in Edmonton after this one. So they're going to want to pick up. But you're right. They're 0-3-1 in their last 4. Now, some of that's the scheduling. They lost to a good Vegas team. They lost to Toronto on New Year's Eve. The Los Angeles Kings are surging, and the Kings were able to get 2 points off them as well. But if Colorado is going to start its climb here, they've got to take care of business in games like this one against the Vancouver Canucks. So I would expect the Avs to mean business, especially now that they've got Nathan MacKinnon back in. He scored 25 seconds into the game against the Golden Knights the other night. He had an assist as well. So he's not in mid-season form after missing the better part of a month, but always dangerous, and certainly Colorado a much better team with Nate the Great in the lineup rather than him on the shelf.
And don't forget Mikko Rantanen. All he does is score goals, especially at even strength.
Yeah, I don't think enough people around hockey are talking, quite frankly, enough about what Mikko Rantanen has done. Again, this Colorado team is right there bumping up against the playoff bar, and they're doing it on the backs essentially of one guy. Sure, they've got other talented players. He has 25 goals. Like, we're going nuts here in Vancouver about Bo Horvat and the goal-scoring pace he's on. He's got 28 goals, but the Canucks have other goal scorers as well. They've got 5 guys in double digits. Rantanen is the only Colorado Avalanche in double digits. He's got 25. They've got a handful of players who have 9, so some are going to join him in the ranks of double-digit goal scorers soon here. But again, for this team to be within an arm's length, and in fact closer than that, to a playoff spot, so much of it has been Rantanen. And think about it, too. With MacKinnon out of the lineup, it allows teams to focus on this guy. And this is what the great players do. They rise above. And even though covering Rantanen and trying to limit his opportunities would be in the game plan of every team that has faced the Colorado Avalanche here of late, he still continues to score. So the Canucks have to be wary of that one tonight.
We all know about Cale Makar, but is there a concern that perhaps he's getting too much play this year?
That seems to be the talk in Colorado. Now, if you just looked at Cale Makar and the numbers, 34 points in 36 games as a defenseman, top 5 in the National Hockey League among scorers from that position, you'd say, hey, yeah, that kind of looks like Cale Makar. But think about this for a sec. He leads all NHLers. Every player in the league averaging 27 minutes and 9 seconds of ice time per game. This is a guy that had an incredible season last year, won the Norris Trophy, was the Conn Smythe winner as they went and won the Stanley Cup. So he played a ton of high-leverage hockey a year ago. When you win the Cup, it's a short offseason. You're right back into it. And with all these injuries, they have leaned on him an awful lot. And so there is some talk in Colorado. As good as he's been incredible, but he hasn't been amazing the way that he was last year. And some people think that maybe there have been some signs of fatigue. But again, he is right up there, if not the best defenseman in the National Hockey League. Then he's in the conversation, and it's a pretty small list. He's fun to watch, probably not much fun to play against, but the Canucks are going to have to find a way to limit Cale Makar. And if you're going to the game or you're watching it, expect to see number 8 out there an awful lot, because nobody in this league plays more on a nightly basis than Cale Makar.
They lean on their goaltender, their new goaltender as well. Alexander Georgiev looks like he'll get another starting goal tonight.
And if he does, it'll be his 10th in a row, and that would be a career high for him. Part of that is Pavel Francouz has been injured. Remember, the Canucks saw Francouz. He's a left-handed goaltender, and not that played into the result, but I remember just because those stick with me. But the Canucks saw Francouz, so they didn't see Georgiev when the Canucks were in Denver back in November. But right now, this guy is holding down the fort among the league leaders in games started and games played and minutes. But we see this. It doesn't matter whether you're one of the tops in the NHL or a guy that's trying to find his way like Spencer Martin. Everybody's got their limit, and it kind of felt like Spencer Martin with 8 straight starts before Christmas. His play was starting to tail off. It's a lot to ask. You're facing the best shooters in the National Hockey League night after night after night. So this will be 10 straight starts for Georgiev. We'll see if he can keep his level at the place that he wants it. If not, if it drops down a little, hey, maybe that's an opening for the Vancouver Canucks.
We talked about how much Rantanen scores at 5-on-5, but the Avs as a whole don't do a lot at even strength.
Yeah, I think this would surprise some people. Only Chicago, and we know where Chicago is in the overall view of the National Hockey League, way down there. But only Chicago scores fewer 5-on-5 goals this season. You talked about Rantanen. Nobody scores more than he does at 5-on-5, but the supporting cast, they haven't necessarily been stepping up, and this is where Colorado has feasted on the power play. Again, McKinnon out, power play dropped a little bit, but he is back. But they're still waiting for others in that supporting cast, right? Valery Nichushkin is close. Darren Helm is back, but he has been out a little while. Josh Manson and Bo Byram on the back end. Neither one of those guys is playing. We talked about Pavel Francouz. So they've had injuries. There have been a lot of injuries. They've weathered the storm, and now it's a question of, ramping things up here, finding that form that allowed the Avs to be the Stanley Cup champs. They don't have to win the Stanley Cup here in the regular season, but they have to make sure that they qualify for the playoffs. You can't defend if you're not part of the Stanley Cup tournament. I think when all's said and done and the dust settles, Colorado is going to find its way back into the playoff picture, but I'm sure they would like to see a little bit more even strength scoring.
Let's get to my Bodog Best Bet. And if you listen to our non-game day pod yesterday, you'll know that I had this one circled. I'm looking at the Avs on the puck line, minus a goal and a half, so they have to win by 2 or more at plus 165. Now, I know that the Canucks have not had a losing streak go over 4 games outside, of course, to the start to the season for them, but I don't know. This time I feel like Colorado, they're going to start ramping it up. They're going to want to snap their streak. They're going to want to do that tonight against the Canucks. I see them winning by 2 or more goals.
Yeah, and we know that the Canucks have struggled on home ice. They have struggled to start this stretch of games that we've called the 12-game gauntlet. They're 0-for-3. That's the 3-game losing streak. And now it gets tougher. And, of course, they're going to see Colorado in a couple of weeks' time when they get back home off the 5-game road trip. It's Tampa is the first game. And then they have a set of back-to-backs with Colorado and Edmonton. So, again, the schedule doesn't let up for the Vancouver Canucks, and this is going to be a tough one. I could see Colorado coming in here and just adding to the Canucks' woes, although I am curious to see. There's been so much talk in the market. Will the Canucks rise up to the challenge? Talk is cheap. Let's see what they look like when the puck drops tonight.
No Saturday night game this week, so we're going to give away Bodog Bucks on a Thursday. Here's what you got to do. Head over to @RinkWideVan on Twitter and reply below with the game-winning goal, the period, and the time. The closest to that will win $50 in Bodog Bucks. And you can just do it right here on YouTube as well. Leave it in the comments. If there is a tie, we go down to whoever posted that time and period first. Good luck to everybody that enters. 50 Bodog Bucks can go a long way. All right, tonight. Big one for the Canucks. Reigning Stanley Cup champions are in town. Who is going to do something for Vancouver?
Well, we'll see. I'm looking at JT Miller to do something just because it's been way too long at home. Now, I know he had a nice assist the other night on a power play goal by Bo Horvat, but keep coming back to the fact that he has not scored a home ice goal since November the 5th against Nashville. It's now January the 5th. Like, we're 2 full months removed from JT Miller's last goal at Rogers Arena. He's a flashpoint right now. So much talk about his on-ice performance, some of the off-ice stuff, his contract. Whatever the case, he was a 99-point scorer. We know that when he's on, he is a big part of what the Vancouver Canucks have put together here. But he's just gone a little too quiet. Only 3 goals in his last 20 games. He's getting a chance to play on the top line with Elias Pettersson, with Andrei Kuzmenko, 2 other guys that have some chemistry, that are generating on an almost nightly basis. We'll see if JT Miller can jump on board and truly make that a top line, because we know with Nathan MacKinnon back, the Avs can run out one of the best lines in the National Hockey League. Yeah, they don't have Gabriel Landeskog, add him to that list, but with MacKinnon and Rantanen, there's some magic there. So I want to see if the Canucks try to fight fire with fire if they go away from that matchup and try and free up their top line to see another option on defense for the Colorado Avalanche. Whatever the case, JT Miller, this is a great opportunity for him. Everybody that plays with EP40 seems to generate some offense, so we'll see if JT Miller can. I'm looking at JT Miller to do something to help the Canucks tonight.
All right, let's see if the Canucks can snap the 3-game losing streak and get their first W of 2023. Not going to be easy with the reigning Cup champs in town. This has been another edition of the Rink Wide Vancouver podcast presented by Bodog. For Jeff Patterson, I'm Andrew Wadden. Remember, Rink Wide is the show that always scores.